Welcome to this week's episode of One-on-One Sports. I'm Caitlin Burns, and today we'll be talking NFL free agency with Miles Hayford and Nick Churchillo, then NHL with Harry Haber and Ethan Potash. And as always, whose side are you on? As the NFL league year begins, we're going to discuss free agency. I'm joined by Nick Churchillo and Miles Hayford. So first, let's talk about, should players sign with division rivals? Miles, what do you think?
I don't think they should. I mean, besides the fan aspect of, you don't want your player to go to that team, I don't think it's healthy for rivalries. I think in recent years we've seen rivalries get less and less iconic and competitive, and I think that's because teams are switching more and not sticking to their teams and going to rivalry teams. Look at the Steelers and Ravens. You used to have players who would be there for a long time and really kind of hate each other, like Ray Lewis, Troy Polamalu, Ben Roethlisberger. But now if you've got like Patrick Queen going to the Steelers, it kind of diminishes the impact of the rivalry.
I don't agree with that because I think the rivalries are still just as competitive as they used to be. It might not be the same teams that are rivalry, but like watch Steelers versus Ravens. That's always competitive and pretty bad, but like in a good way. And also they're like at each other's throats all the time. And also there's no loyalty in organizations anymore. Like take Aaron Jones, for example. The Packers asked him to take a pay cut 2 years in a row, and they asked him to take a third one, and he was like, nah, I want my money. I'm coming off like a great stretch. And they just cut him. Like he was a leader of the team, and they just got rid of him because he was too expensive and too old. They Leonardo DiCaprio'd him and went for the young, sexy Josh Jacobs option. Like, I just don't know why players should waste their careers when they can go chase the bag on a rival team.
I get that sentiment from a player's perspective. From an organizational perspective, I think they should be keeping them because, if every Packers player like Aaron Jones goes to the Vikings, and in a Packers-Vikings game, you see all former Packers on the Vikings sideline, there's not much of a rivalry because it's not these like two sides who hate each other, who are from like different backgrounds. It's just former players from each team.
I agree, but it also can sometimes strengthen the rivalry because when they switch teams, then you no longer like them, and then they're on the opposing team and you root against them, which can kind of strengthen it because you're like, oh, well, I really don't like you because you left for them.
I think that's true in when it's a rare case, like for the Steelers-Ravens, like Patrick Queen. Not many players from the Ravens go to the Steelers, so that's impactful. But if you continue to let it happen and many, many players go, then it's going to diminish the impact.
I don't know how much it diminishes it. I've seen on social media Giants fans are ready to kill Saquon Barkley. So those games are going to be heated from now on. So I think it does help the rivalry. And also there's another aspect to it. Like I remember seeing on a podcast, Aaron Rodgers said that after every Packers-Lions game, he would try to recruit Calvin Johnson to the Packers. So there's also you see the rivals twice a year as opposed to other teams where you see them every couple years. So you get to know the guys on the other team better. So it makes you kind of oh, I kind of like those guys. I'll go there. And it's not even from rivalry. It's just who they see. So from a human aspect, you really get to know them better.
Which I think is a good thing, but also it's not like that tough, gritty rivalry that some of the iconic rivalries have, like the Ravens, Steelers, Packers, Vikings, things like that.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on to a more specific player when we talk about trades and stuff. Is Kirk Cousins a good or a bad signing? Nick, we'll start with you this time.
I think out of the options they had, they were kind of stuck because he was the best quarterback on the market, but it's going to end up blowing up in the Falcons' face when they gave him all this money and he's just not going to be worth it. His cap hit for the next couple of years are $25 million, $40 million, and $57.5 million. So if they don't win in the first couple of years, the dude's 36. So he's going to hit a point where he starts regressing, and he's not Peyton Manning. He's not Tom Brady. You can't get away with a regressing Kirk Cousins to get you to the Super Bowl.
Yes, 4 years for $180 million is an overpay. Does Kirk deserve that? Probably not. But they have money to spend, and also they're not in the position in the draft to draft a young stud. Desmond Ridder wasn't the answer, so that they kind of had to go with this. And also, trading for Justin Fields or getting a rookie quarterback probably isn't the move for them because offensively and defensively too, they're not in really a rebuild. They've already got Drake London, Pitts, Bijan Robinson. They've got a bunch of stars, so they're prepared for success. So getting a risky quarterback in a rookie or Justin Fields could diminish that and waste those precious years. But if you get a proven winner, I think you've got a chance at doing something.
Proven winner is a bit of an overstatement. The man has less playoff wins than Baker Mayfield. He is 1-4 in the playoffs. He made the playoffs with the Vikings twice, and he lost to Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers. That's respectable, and Daniel Jones. So, like, his playoff wins was against, like, a 40-year-old Drew Brees, and that's it. Like, he is not a proven winner.
I mean, I guess, but a 76 and 67 and 2 record and 1 playoff win is still better than what Justin Fields has or any of those rookies have. They have no wins. They have nothing.
Yeah, okay. The rookies have no wins, but they also have no losses. So it can go either way. Like, they had the ability to trade up. Like, it would have cost a lot, but if you can get like a Jaden Daniels, if you can try to get to 2, because you have the 8th pick, so you might have been able to get into like that Patriots, or maybe not Commanders, but the Patriots 3rd overall pick, you probably could have gotten a rookie quarterback, and I think you would have been able to develop the rookie in the next 2 years. So instead of a 38-year-old quarterback, you now have a 23-year-old who's built into a veteran offense, and he can lean on them.
Well, Nick, I can tell you could go on and on about this for a little bit longer, but let's move on to who's the biggest loser. Miles, we'll go back to you on this one.
I definitely think it's the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, what have they done?
I love to hear it.
They cut some players. They signed a long snapper. Like, what are they really doing? They let Tony Pollard go, so who's their running back? They let every running back sign to another team. They said the $8 million for Zach Moss was too expensive for them, so what running back are they going to get for less that's even remotely good? They've also got some holes on the defense that they need to fill. They just haven't done anything. And also, they were such a good team last year that yet they lost to the Packers. They got smacked. So something needed to change, and they're not doing any change.
I'd honestly argue that something does need to change, and that is why they haven't signed anybody. I don't know if they're doing this on purpose or not, but they have so many contracts that are expiring in 2024. So if they fail again, they can get rid of the people that have underperformed for years and years. They can get rid of the McCarthys. They could get rid of Dak. Like, they can get rid of these people who just haven't done anything for them. They have like a couple playoff wins and just haven't taken that next step. So I would actually argue that the biggest losers are the Chargers, because they were not in the Cowboys' position. The Cowboys at least made the playoffs. They were the 2 seed, and now they did lose to the Packers in embarrassing fashion. But the Chargers are coming off of a 5-12 year where they just got Jim Harbaugh, the hottest head coach on the market. And what do to start this new regime? They get rid of 2 of their best weapons and keep the overpaid and old and injury-prone Joey Bosa instead of clearing up money with that. They cleared money, but after all the free agents are gone. So they put themselves in a position where they have to rely on Malik Neighbors to carry their offensive load.
I mean, yes, but also keeping Bosa is still a nice addition to that defense, especially as they're trying to rebuild that defense. I think he'll be a nice veteran presence. And Keenan's getting up there. Mike Williams is getting up there. They both have had injury problems. I think it would be a nice way to rebuild the wide receiver core with young guys like Neighbors, Quentin Johnson, maybe a wide receiver in the 2nd or 3rd round. I think it's a good way to rebuild that offense. And also, you've got Greg Roman at the offensive coordinator now, so they're going to be run heavy. So maybe they're like, let's get rid of this cap situation with Keenan and Mike and focus on the run.
Yeah, well, it's been nice to hear from you guys, and there's a lot still to go with free agency. It's only really been a day. There's been lots in the news with the Eagles and some other teams, so we'll check back with that maybe at some point. But next we're going to hear from Ethan Potash and Harry Haber about the NHL. Skating on over to the NHL, I'm joined by Harry Haber and Ethan Potash. Let's get started by talking about trade deadline winners. Ethan, who do you have?
Yeah, so I'm going to go with the reigning champions, the defending champion Vegas Golden Knights. They were able to pull off their LTIR cap gymnastics nonsense where they put Mark Stone and his $9 million on LTIR and they get the cap relief, and they were able to use that to bring in Noah Hannafin, Anthony Mantha, and Tomas Hertl from the rival Sharks. That was the big shocker. I hadn't even heard his name on the block. And they did all that without giving up a single roster player. They only gave up picks, and they gave up their first-round pick from last year. David Edstrom, I believe is his name. So they were able to greatly improve a roster that won a cup last year and is largely the same from last year without giving up a single roster player.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Golden Knights are making a strong bid to go back-to-back. They're going to be a tough team to beat. However, my trade deadline winner is going to be a local team, the Carolina Hurricanes. They're really, making the push this year. They've had a strong start to the season, and they, are built to win now. They went ahead and picked up Jake Gensel from the Pittsburgh Penguins and Evgeny Kuznetsov. So two, strong players are going to help them as, this playoff chase heats up. And they didn't really give up too much. Their only roster player they did give up was Michael Bunting, and he wasn't really working out anyway. Didn't give up a whole ton of depth. Did give up some prospects and some draft picks, but that's what you kind of have to do if you want to win now. It was, a good trade deadline. A lot of teams trying to make that push, but I'm going with the Hurricanes for the best.
All right, now, Harry, who's your loser?
Yeah, losers, I'm going to go with the Kings. Right now, they're in a tough playoff battle in the Western Conference, but they didn't really make any moves. This was, kind of their time to rebound after they've kind of been struggling, but they haven't really done much. They fired their head coach. I just think they should have done more in a Pacific Division that there's some tough playoff chances.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with that. Kings should have done more, but I'm going to go with the Nashville Predators, who currently hold the first wild card spot in the West. But they're a loser to me because they should have rebuilt 4 years ago. And they've been holding on to the core pieces from their 2017 finals run, and this team just isn't going anywhere. Like, we know they're not going to trade Forsberg. We know they're not trading Yossi. We know they're not going to trade O'Reilly. But they had guys to trade. They could have traded Saros. They could have traded Novak, Carrier, Nyquist, and they just didn't. Instead, they brought in two bottom six guys, Jason Zucker and Anthony Beauvillier, for like 5th and 6th round picks they gave up. And those guys aren't moving the needle for them. Those guys are not, I don't even think those guys are going to get them out of the first round, let alone are they going to get them to win a cup. This team has not won a playoff series since 2018. They should have rebuilt like 5 years ago. And instead of selling at the deadline, getting some assets, they punted basically.
They're a little bit of a team without an identity right now. Don't really know what direction they're headed.
They're in no man's land.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on right now to cup picks. Harry, who do you got?
So I've got the Florida Panthers. They went to the Cup last year, knocked off the Boston Bruins in the first round, huge upset. They're currently first in the NHL in total points, so they are the best team as of now in that category. They're also top 10 in penalty kill, top 10 in power play, two things you kind of have to be good at to succeed in the playoffs. They also have the second least amount of goals allowed in the NHL, so right now everything's really working for the Florida Panthers, and I don't see them losing to anyone in the playoffs.
Yeah, they'd probably be my pick out of the East, but I think we're on a crash course for a rematch, and Vegas is going to take it again. Vegas is actually in a position where they still have to make the playoffs. They occupy the second wild card spot right now. They're 4 points up, I believe, on St. Louis and Minnesota. But their stats don't jump off the page, but they are the both tallest and heaviest team in the league. They are built for the playoffs. We saw it last year. They just ran through everybody. They didn't go past Game 6 in a single round. And they are going to be a nightmare come playoff time if they can make it in. And I think we're on a crash course for a rematch.
Yep.
All right, now let's move on to what do you guys think the awards are going to look like this season? Ethan, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so for my MVP pick, I'm going to go Nikita Kucherov from the Lightning. This is not a great Lightning team on paper, and Kucherov has willed them to a wild card spot right now. They are still in danger of missing the playoffs, but if he can get that team into the playoffs, I mean, he certainly has a case. He's currently 40 points ahead of Braden Point, who is second on his team in scoring. He's second in points, he's sixth in goals, he's second in assists in the league. And his year this year really reminds me of Taylor Hall's in 2018, where he dragged the Devils team that had no business being in the playoffs. He dragged them to the playoffs, and he was like, I think he was finished the year 41 points ahead of second place on his team. Kucherov reminds me a lot of that year.
Yeah, I agree, guy. Kucherov's definitely been very good. But my MVP pick is going to be the Colorado kid, Nathan McKinnon. I mean, he's just been amazing. Most points in the NHL of 113, 6 ahead of second place. He has the 5th most goals of 41 in the NHL, 2nd most assists. He has a super long home point streak. The one game I went to in Colorado, we got 4 goals this season. He's just been an absolute force for the Colorado Avalanche. And if the Avalanche can keep winning and keep up that success, I don't see any reason why the MVP isn't his.
Yeah, it might be his time. He's finished runner-up a couple times, I believe. Yeah. And for my Norris pick, my best defenseman, I'm going to go with one of your guys, Cale Makar. If we're being honest, he should probably win the Norris every single year, but they're obviously not going to do that. The Norris has really become the award for the best offensive defenseman that is somewhat good on defense. Makar has 73 points in 62 games, and he also has the reputation. He's played 4 seasons. He's finished 9th. That was his rookie year in Norris voting. And then 2nd, 1st, and 3rd. And now this is his 5th season where he's almost certainly going to be top 3.
Yeah, Cale Makar is very good. However, I'm going to kind of play devil's advocate. I'm going to go with Quinn Hughes from the Canucks. He has the 2nd highest plus-minus in the NHL. Most points among defensemen, top 10 in goals among defensemen, and he also has the most assists among defensemen. So he's been very good this season. It's really going to be neck and neck with those two, but that's where I'm going to go. And then for goalie, I'm going to go Hellebuck. He has the lowest goals against average in the NHL, also has the highest save percentage. Lots of good goalies right now in the NHL, but that's what I'm going to go with. Yeah,
I'm going to stick with the Vancouver theme that you started, and I'm going to go Thatcher Demko for my Vezina Award. He's been such a key component of the Canucks, who have really, really surpassed expectations this season. I mean, a lot of people had them as like a fringe playoff team, and now they're competing for first in the league. He has a .917 save percentage, a .247 goals against average. He's second in goals saved over expected, although Hellebuck is first. And if Vancouver can finish first in the league, then I think that might be enough to push Demko over the top for the Vezina.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for joining me today, and we'll wrap this up in just a minute. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me today. I'm Caitlin Burns. Remember to follow us on Instagram at One-on-One Sports and subscribe, and catch us next week. All right, I'm going to do this better than Ethan.
Yeah, I spiked mine. I got the closest, I think.
All right.
Good job.
That's really funny.
I realized there won't be an episode next week. Jack, don't yell at me.